The Co-Chief Executive Officer of the Executive Council of Australian Jewry, Alex Ryvchin, joins us now from Sydney. Alex, good morning and welcome back to News Breakfast.
Good morning, thank you.
If the war resumes in Gaza, I just want to bring it back home for a minute. What will that mean, do you think, for the Jewish community here in Australia?
Well, you know, we're a community that cares deeply for the fate of the State of Israel. We want to see peace prevail in the Middle East. And the Jewish community in Australia is watching what's happening now with great anxiety. We have a deep concern for the fate of the remaining hostages in Gaza. We want to see this war brought to a close. And we feel a deep frustration and anger at Hamas for rejecting the temporary proposals that were put in place by the United States to extend the ceasefire that have resulted in the resumption of hostilities. And I think it heightens tensions in this country and globally, but primarily our concern is for the fate of the hostages and the people of the Middle East.
Some of the groups representing the families of the hostages are opposed to the resumption of any sort of fighting, fearing it might lead to their deaths. Do you have, I know that there are a lot of views about this, but do you have a view on the best way to secure the release of the remaining hostages and including the bodies of the hostages who we know have already died?
I think the State of Israel is really in an impossible position. They've articulated their war aims from the beginning as the destruction of Hamas, its removal from power so it can no longer wreak havoc on its own people and also the people of Israel, and also the rescue or return of the hostages. And in many ways, those seem to be incompatible. We saw during the first phase of the ceasefire a number of hostages released and paraded in really barbaric, atrocious circumstances by Hamas. But for the past 3 weeks, Hamas has refused to engage with the US brokered proposal to exchange the ceasefire. And Israel will feel that the only way that it can get Hamas to comply, to give in, to release hostages is through the resumption of military force and coercion. It's sad that we are where we are, and I think that Hamas had the opportunity to lay down its arms, to leave power, to accept exile for the remains of its leadership, and bring some respite to its own people. And ultimately, I think it's the Palestinian people, the population of Gaza, that will suffer the most for Hamas's intransigence and their extremism.
We're seeing some disturbing, moving pictures coming out of Gaza. Hundreds of people are said to have already died in these latest strikes. So where do you think most Australian Jews stand on this conflict? Again, very difficult to sum up the views of an entire community though.
Well, I've seen since October 7 an incredible unity in the Jewish community in terms of a support for Israel, a desire to see the hostages released or rescued, and a desire to see Hamas removed once and for all so that there can be peace and it can open the door, hopefully, for the peaceful reconstruction of Gaza, no longer to be used as a staging ground for mass atrocities. And hopefully there can be a genuine process that can lead to a two-state solution and peace for the peoples, which is what they deserve. But in terms of how that's best achieved, that's where I think there's some difference of opinions in the Jewish community. Some want to see a quicker, harder war to apply maximum pressure on Hamas, and others want to see a slower approach. But in terms of, again, that support for Israel, the support for its war aims, which are just and moral and necessary, there's virtually unanimous support for that in the Jewish community here.
All right, Alex, we do appreciate you joining our program this morning. Thank you.